It's heavy. Oh, I forgot my tablet too. We'll get going, and then I'll go grab the tablet. Hey, everybody! Welcome to Gary's Guitars Guitar Talk. I'm Mark. This is Gary, and this is a guitar. It's a beautiful guitar,
and we can talk.
And we do talk. So the idea is we just do this kind of question and answer thing, discussion here on the internet with our internet friends.
The guitar the snark doesn't work on.
Oh. Or maybe it's a low battery on the snark. And obviously we're prepared because we're 4 minutes late and Gary's tuning a guitar and I'm going to go get my tablet. So we're back. And so what we say at the beginning of the show usually is just to have you folks chime in, say hi, tell us if we don't know you, just say hi and say where you're from kind of thing. If you're a regular, just chime in and say hi. And what else? Click like and subscribe and all that stuff too, that YouTube-y stuff. And I'm going to jump on the chat on this tablet and we will communicate. So let's just start with this guitar then, because it just came in today just for some regular maintenance, right? Restringing.
Yeah, restring, check setup.
Checking it out.
It's a Gretch Viking from the 60s. It's got the pad. We love the pad.
Yeah.
If you have to fix the electronics, it's in there.
Yeah.
But it has the tuning fork.
Put that a little closer even to show.
Thingy.
So yeah, between the bridge and the saddle is a tuning fork.
There is a tuning fork, about this long, about the depth of the body, suspended from this, which I just realized because I've never done this before. This is not the bridge anymore. This is the bridge.
Yeah.
For the intonation, it is.
Intonation-wise, yeah, you got a little left to right.
I got it all set. Like, it's really sharp, so I'm moving this around. Like, wait a minute. That's where the string starts. And actually, they put these two little tabs here to tell you that's approximately where it goes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's where it got pretty much intonated. Yeah. And I'm sure you'll never hear it there, but it has a little chimey thing to it.
Adds a little extra resonance.
Louder than your normal
and then
semi-hollow.
Yeah, definitely.
It weighs about 24 pounds.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra metal, plus it's a hefty Gretsch. What year is this, do you remember?
I was going to say 64.
Yeah, we sold this to him
a couple years ago. I must have figured it out then, and then I forgot when I went to bring it again today. But
the Viking.
Yes.
So let's see who's out there.
There was also a Falcon that had
Jimmy, Albert, J.K., William.
Tuning fork.
Yep, bunch of regulars all saying hi. Crapo. So if you have any questions or comments or want to join in the conversation, just put it in the chat and we'll check in with that. And in the meantime,
so the owner might be trading it to you?
I don't know. Might be interested in selling it. He said, I don't use it. I don't know, one of those things. So keep an eye on the site.
Works great. Action's awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll trade it for that Squire Classic 5. Probably not.
And a few bucks.
It's gone up a few bucks since he's bought it. Plus, he got a deal on it, I think.
I don't remember.
I thought it was a deal. I thought about it when it was in here.
I know there aren't many.
Yeah.
I mean, just in my research just now, and I got to move the tuning fork thing around to intonate it. Didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people out there that seem to know anything about them. So,
Hungary, because I just had soup. Mike chimed in. Our man in Hungary.
Hungary beet soup, borscht.
And borscht is Russian and Ukrainian. Well, Eastern Europeans use a bunch of beets. Hungarian, it's a paprika on everything. They put paprika on everything.
Paprika soup.
But their paprika is literally better. They have more respect for the paprika.
Oh.
You'll never go back to eating McCormick's if you get yourself a real Hungarian paprika. It just won't do. It actually has flavor. Like, you put the dry paprika on stuff. It's just like, I guess it tastes like pepper. No.
I don't know that I've ever put paprika on anything.
Paprikash is their paprika soup. Quite good.
Huh.
Did I get that right, Mike? And then goulash, you peasants. Yeah.
Right.
Hungarian goulash. That's a peasant food. Could use some of that right now. Oh yeah, that's there. Yeah. So there's paprikash, which I ate because it doesn't have meat in it, I think. And then Katya had the goulash.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, wonderful place. But we didn't come here to talk about Europe. We came here to talk about guitars and amps and guitar-like things.
Well, we could talk about European guitars.
European guitars like Cremonas, made in Bulgaria.
What was that one I worked on from Switzerland last week? Relish guitars.
Relish.
I didn't look it up. It was an odd little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Solid body, 2 humbuckers, just
Switzerland. It's just a
odd
little
shape.
neutral.
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
guitar.
fine.
Get it neutral, Switzerland.
And just now I worked on a guitar. I asked Sam. He said, yes, these are made in Burlington, Vermont. This is their low-end budget model. They mostly make super high-end.
And what are they called?
Cecile guitars or Cecily guitars.
Mm-hmm.
This is their Monadnock series, I think he said.
Yeah.
That's a working man's guitars.
Mm-hmm. So no binding, no fanciness.
Yeah, I thought it was your typical Johnson, just based on the paint job. But sounds good.
Yeah. So. Made in, and did you check out what the street price on that was yet or no?
I didn't ask him.
Yeah, be interesting thing to find out.
Yeah,
Vermont made guitars.
The Iris model. I remember that.
I have to check into that.
Something to look into.
Look into the Iris. The puns just keep coming tonight. Dad jokes for everybody.
That's all we got is bad jokes.
Jimmy Joe Fine is in Mansfield. Yeah, he's a regular. We got Mike there. We got a few people on. Let's see. We got more of our own topics if you want to hear us talk about stuff. Here's something that just came in, so I thought I'd talk about it.
Oh yeah, that one. That's kind of interesting.
People keep asking about it, so I'm like, okay, we'll get one. And this is the famous Acoustasonic.
Made by Fender, no less.
So it's the Fender Godin.
You know what I realized? It kind of looks like a Rick Turner.
Because the angle of the pickup. But Lindsay has his angled the opposite way. But yeah, having a little pickup built on. Yeah, exactly. Kind of an acoustic, kind of an electric.
Right.
Maybe he would have endorsed it if they didn't kick him out of Fleetwood Mac. So what can we say about this? So it's made. Let's see. It has a top. Right?
One piece of wood carved out and a top put on. Is what it looks like.
Yeah, it is.
That's the way the Acousticasters are made. I think.
But it's not. It has a top, right?
Yes. It's not very thick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is bound here.
Yeah.
And so this is like an acoustic guitar top.
This is just inlaid here. They wrote out a little shelf.
But that's how they get the two pieces of wood together.
Right. Yeah.
And it has that cutaway that people love on the back of the neck with the offset screws. And that's something that Fender makes you pay for.
Curious sound hole.
Yeah.
There's a piece of round wood in there that goes almost all the way to the back.
Yeah.
So it's not like wide open.
Yeah.
Maybe that helps with feedback or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things in the design of this. It's supposed to be something, what you can play like an electric or an acoustic.
Piezo pickup in the bridge.
Piezo in the bridge. It's the level. The one thing that got right, Jake was noticing when he played it. You know how you got a guitar with a piezo and a magnetic pickup, and when you switch between them, it's like, whoa, what the hell just happened? He said it's real smooth. You can put it together. You can, it's not like, ouch, that's a piezo pickup. So
I listened to him play it for 10 minutes or so, and it doesn't sound at all like a Tele, and it doesn't sound like your average acoustic electric, but it sounded good.
Yeah.
So it's a
low luster finish, open pore on the back of the neck. So it's a trend right now too for these low luster finishes. That something Godin was doing.
$11.99.
$11.99 is the street price.
All that nice wood and workmanship sounds reasonable. Recessed everything. Neck plates recessed.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that before.
So the neck plates recessed. There's a little preamp module back here with a battery in it.
So the little sticky bumps in the back. And simple.
Yeah. So
Tele should be.
And so I also have the multi-amp Encore. Remember the Encore?
Vaguely.
They briefly made an inexpensive multi-amp with a small body, Tele size shape. but kind of between the because Godin had the Telecast, now what they
The
call it, the
Acoustacaster.
Acoustacaster,
Right.
and then they had the Multi-Act, which is
Right.
multi, very big. And that's what I play a lot of. So it's kind of up that alley, and I do like that.
Yeah.
For solo acoustic, it kind of you can finger pick on it, and not be so like overtly acoustic, but still have a little electric warmth.
It came with bronze strings.
Yeah, it came with
So they're thinking acoustic there.
Yeah. Although, of course, a lot of people are putting nickel. We can talk about that too. A lot of people put nickel strings on acoustic guitars again.
They do.
Let's talk about the history of that.
At
one time, they're all nickel, right?
Right. Dario, I think, invented the bronze string in 1940, 56, something around there.
Yeah, 1950, 40,
About
60. Yeah.
60 years ago.
Yeah, but in the 60s, people still commonly would use nickel strings on acoustic guitars.
Gibson mono steels.
Yeah.
And then, they came along, and now that's what pretty much everybody uses. But every once in a while, there's a little resurgence of, well, this is what they used in the 40s, so this is what I want to use. So it must be good,
yeah. So Martin, I think, with a new series of acoustic nickel acoustic strings, and they had a advertising campaign that went along with it and got everyone excited about it. And they came in and they're like, we need those nickel strings. And I'm like, well, we got nickel strings. Nickel is nickel, right? But they claim that they're somehow special. So, and we looked into it.
At least 4 people who tried them, they all hated them.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that too. If you're used to your guitar, although we just put a set of silken steels, which are nickel as well, right?
Oh, on that 12 string?
No. On that, the not 12 string, the Little Martin.
Yes,
because the person who owned it said, I don't play guitar a lot, but they play a lot of music, and so I said, well, this will make it easier on your guitar too. The less tension on the guitar, the better off your guitar is, because those Martins like to.
Right.
Those old Martins like to fold up like a card table.
Well, I heard you telling her the Tom Rush 12-string.
Oh, yeah,
story,
right.
So.
Tom Rush came in with a, for those the legendary folk troubadour Tom Rush. It happens to live 5 miles from here, but lives. He can move back. And I came in one day with his 12-string, a trusty 64 Guild, and it looks like it's been on the road with him the entire time.
Yeah.
It just was like
50 years on the road. And
it may have had some bridge resets and such, but it still was a little rough, and he still used it. But he had silken steel strings on the 12-string, and I was like, what's that all about? Strummed it. I liked it. Liked it so much, I put the silken steel strings on my Harmony 12-string.
Oh, yeah? Better?
And just the idea of just like, it's not the next getting, it's not getting pulled on. 12 strings are programmed to self-destruct.
Yeah, they used to be.
Yeah. They're just even really great 12 strings. The bridges want to come up. There's a lot more pressure. And so any kind of relief, that's what, remember people used to tune down to D.
Yeah.
I tried
keep
that.
on the second fret.
But keep on the second fret, pretend like, that was a thing. And that's a way to, before I got my neck reset, I did that. Actually, I had it in D. Sounds pretty good in D, actually, that particular guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody ever complained about it.
Yeah. Until people got the snark tuner and realized we're all tuned to D.
Right.
So let's get back to the chat. See if anyone's
anybody chatting.
European guitars. I got an Orpheum acoustic.
Looks like European.
Looks like a Czech dropped acid. Played a Fender Villager. Went home and recreated it from memory.
Is that Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
I watch bands at the bars in Nashville on YouTube, and all you see is mostly Telecaster guitars, all kinds of amps. Telecaster is just, especially in Nashville, man. That's that's how you prove that you're in the know. You show up with a telly and you play just enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Nashville style, amps these days. I mean, Fender still rules the amp world as far as I can tell.
Around here.
We don't have a lot of metal around here. Fender still doesn't have a great metal amp, although the bass breaker does Marshall sounds for sure.
Yeah, to talk somebody out of bringing down their 100-watt Marshall JCM with 2 4x12 cabs the other day.
Yeah.
Were you interested in buying it? not for much.
Yeah.
And if you're giving it away, we'll take a look. But what's the problem? I
cabs
said,
are-
nobody wants it.
Nobody wants big amps.
50 watts is
The
too
heads,
much now.
yeah. Well, the heads, people will pair the heads up with smaller cabs sometimes. But
Right.
yeah, it's really tough to move unless they're the super classic Marshall cabs.
Right.
Where we got people waiting for those 1968s or
Right.
something that if we could sell it for $400 or something like that. But I would say that, man, 4x12 cabs, they're really hard to sell. 4x10 cabs, really hard to sell. If you own any of this stuff and you find you're not using it, if it's in your garage, get rid of it now because the bottom is falling out of the big amp world.
It fell out a few years ago.
Yeah. Lewis said hi. He's a regular. Yeah, it's just been in the process of one day a young punker that we've known forever came with his SVTs. Can you guys sell this? And I'm like, no. He had it in his car. It's like the thing looks like murder. First of all, it's all punk rock, all torn up and shit. And nobody wants. You can't even fit him in the car. You can't close the hatchback anymore with it.
Well, there was Rogers SVT that was here. This was before you bought the store.
Oh yeah, but I remember that. That was been here for
I brought it
2
in
years.
just sort of at the end of the desirability era of SVTs, and it'll sell for good prices. A good one, old 70s. It was here for 2 or 3 years. Everybody played it.
Yeah,
and
no one wanted to buy.
More than one person said, "Well, it won't fit in my car."
Yeah. So they sell. If you don't know what we're talking about, those are those 8x those refrigerators.
Yep.
That Ampeg kind of solved the riddle. Like, how can you make the bass heard? You just need an array of speakers.
Yeah.
You don't need big speakers. You just need a lot of them.
150-pound amp on top.
Yep. And just a real powerful amp, lots of headroom, makes perfect sense, sounds great, industry standard, but nobody's buying them. Sometimes someone will buy one and maybe to live in a studio or something, but no one wants to carry that stuff around. Sometimes you go to show. Actually, last night I saw Robert Cray last night.
Where?
The music hall.
Okay.
Down the street. Robert Cray.
He's a good player.
He's great.
Yeah.
And I love his songwriting. He's for blues, to take the blues idiom and really do something creative with it. I really enjoyed it. And but his bass player had an SVT on stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
I bet he didn't move it by himself.
No, definitely not. But he did show up with the real goods. And the guy's been with him forever too. Right. And so, but Los Lobos had the 6x8. Now Los Lobos are the carriers of the flame for me, right? They're the band that's out there still doing rock music on a regular basis, and they used to always have an SVT cab. Well, they used to have 2 back in the day, probably, but they'd always have the SVT cab on stage. And this time, they brought the 6x10 with a quilter head on top of it, little tiny head. So, and sometimes you go to shows and there's no bass amp on the stage.
Right.
Just going through the PA, just going through a simulator, a preamp, and that's the worst if you're sitting up front. I was at a show, like a modern rock show. We're right up front, and all we could hear was the drums.
Oh, because the PA
was shooting by us, and all the monitors were shooting everything back the other way.
Right.
And there's nothing on stage making any noise except the drums and one guitar amp. There's the drums and one guitar amp, and everything else was through the PA.
So the good seats were back there.
You'd be halfway through the room to actually hear stuff.
Right. Now, if there's a sound guy out there, that's frequently the best place to sit. Go sit with him.
Yeah. I'm probably the only fool looking for one of those Ampeg amps. Yeah, man. They sound unlike anything. They're great.
Yeah.
So if you get a deal on one, but make sure you get a deal, because if it's $1,000 today, it's going to be $750 in a year. And we saw that happen with twins. Twins went all the way up to people asking $2,000 for a twin. Now we'll be lucky to get $800 for a twin.
I was going to say 6.
Yeah. And so they had their day. People don't want twins are a great amp.
Yeah.
I have one.
They're heavy.
They're heavy, and people don't want big stuff anymore.
And they sound great when they're too loud.
Yeah. So, buy it well, because the price is still on the way down. So don't pay top dollar.
I suppose that's a good market gamble, is to start buying up those cheap twins and SVTs and Marshall
Hoping they'll
stacks,
come back. Yeah.
stick them in the garage and wait 20 years. Maybe they'll
I
be
had
worth
to-
nothing.
Or maybe
they'll
they
be
were
worth
the whole
10 times what you paid.
So in the summer of 1990, I and a friend bought a Volkswagen Beetle together. We each paid $100. And it was our kick around for the summer car. We thought of sawzalling the roof off. It was just a rusty, the floorboards were gone on it. But it ran, it worked, and it was fun. And then eventually it just ended up in my yard. I liked it, but we had to sell it or something, or it just had to move. But my thought that summer was like, you can buy these things on any corner for $200. I'm going to buy like 20 of these and put them in a barn somewhere, because people are really going to want this car someday.
Yeah.
I just knew it. And I was right, but I didn't have the barn, and I didn't have the modest $200 a car. So the same thing with the Ampeg amps. Maybe there's a lot. I mean, there's a reason those things cost $3,000 new. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of metal, a lot of valuable stuff. So when you're buying it at the kind of street price now, you're actually getting a great deal.
Well,
if you
you
think
melt
of
it
that
down
way.
and make money, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Those transformers are monstrous.
Yeah. All right, folks, let's check in here. So once again, it's Guitar Talk from Gary's Guitars, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But we talk to folks from all over the world. We just get on here and yip yap about the anything guitar. There's a live chat going on right now, but also if you're watching this after the fact, you can just leave something in the comments, and we'll get a notification, and we can talk about it next time. Because most of our watchers aren't on the live. The live is maybe 60 people, and then we get probably 600 to 800 on total watches and later in the week, which is fine. Maybe Wednesday at 6 o'clock is a bad time to do this.
Well,
I think we chose it because it was a day that both you and I were here,
and the store is closed.
and the store closes at 6 at the end of the day. But also, it's kind of a middle of the week now, and that's why my YouTube usage. Everyone on here is probably a YouTube addict. We talked about Robbie last week. Robbie was here as a guest, and he loves just finding stuff out on YouTube. I like YouTube too, like that. And I just dinner time, put on a little YouTube, do some cooking, watch some news, some whatever comes up, podcasts. Because now people are just posting their podcast to YouTube as well.
Oh, that's why there's I've noticed all of a sudden there are lots of them there.
Yeah. SVT cabinets equals tiny house trend. Oh yeah. So you could. Sorry, that's fine.
Oops, something over there is making a racket.
So yes, the SVT cab could be can meet with the tiny house trend and become a what's the word for it? Yeah, you can turn your SVT cab into a tiny house, or like two of them. Like people take those shipping containers. Right?
Yeah, well, we used to occasionally refer to them as your coffin.
Yeah, you're right. You could be buried in that
Almost,
probably.
unless you're well over 6 feet, you could probably fit in there.
Yeah.
Get folded a little bit, but
I mentioned jokingly that I want to be buried in my Hammond organ. And one day my wife, who read the article, she was like, one day she points at it, is that what I'm supposed to bury you in? And I'm like, that was a joke. It's about, it'd be nice to just take out the tone generators and put me in there.
right.
Right? It's a beautiful looking thing, and it's a Hammond organ. And then when the alien anthropologists of the future find it, they'll think I was the king.
He was buried with this mysterious magical thing.
Lewis says, my friend just picked up a Mesa Boogie Badlander. The top end 4K. He paid $2K. He got lucky. Okay. William says, I had a Bandmaster with reverb back in the early 70s with JBL D120s. I love the amp, but even then it was a pain to move around. I downsized to a super reverb.
Oh, was it a combo amp?
Bandmaster wasn't usually a combo. You had the head that screwed onto the
there
top.
There was a Bandmaster reverb that might have been a combo.
No, my Bandmaster reverb is a combo.
Oh, that's right.
Because someone put it into
That's
it.
what made me think of that.
Yeah.
So you had a 2x12 with two really heavy speakers in it.
And the head, yeah.
Right.
So, so I guess the Super is... And we just ordered another Tone Master Super that will be in a few weeks. That sold the day we got it because it's a massively powerful amp that weighs nothing. It's comically light. Yeah. So if you want to have the look and feel and sound of the Super, and I hate to be talking up the Tone Master.
This tall, so it looks like it's going to be a two-hand dolly job.
Yeah, right. And then,
Whoa.
yeah, it's in the Super cabinet essentially. They make the cabinet in the same factory they make the other cabinets, like specifically like these cabinets, even though they're thinner and lighter.
It's probably like 25 pounds of speakers and 10 pounds of everything else.
Yeah, the speakers are everything in that too, but I think they're also pine cabinets for resonance, though. I think they're
right. Yeah, that's the old 50s Fender thing.
That's the Fender. Because the Blues Junior is a composite cabinet. Some people like to swap them over, and actually, we have a Blues Junior in a pine cabinet. Coincidentally.
Oh yes, the Blues Senior.
The Blues Senior.
Yes.
Maybe I should show people the Blues Senior. Yeah.
You didn't do that already?
No, let's do that. So you've seen the Blues Junior. Now meet Blues Senior.
I'm not sure where Mark got a Blues Junior amplifier without the cabinet, but he did, and had the idea. Decided he'd order a pre-made cab for it, and thought, well, why not put a 15 in it? So it's the Blues Senior now.
It's the Blues Senior. Wow. It's actually no heavier than the regular Blues Junior hardly, even though I just made a dad noise. That's because I'm a dad, and also because I hurt my back. So what we did was there's a guy out in California who makes custom pine cabs for Fender amps, the Blues Junior series especially. And I was thinking, well, since some people upgrade their cabinet, why don't I get find a cabinet that someone upgraded, and I can put the head, So I went on eBay and I found out for $220, someone will make you this. So, and then I thought 15 for guitar sounds great. So it has a 15 in it. It's got a Blues Junior head in the top. It's about the size of a deluxe, maybe, would you say? With the width of,
a little taller, a little narrow. Yeah. Probably in square inches, about the same.
Yeah.
So is it a full old 15 in there?
It's a full 15 for sure. The Eminence.
It's a newer speaker?
Newer speaker, yeah. I didn't want to, because I liked, this actually, we'll put this down and sit back down, I guess.
Yeah. I remember you had a couple of old 50s or 60s 15s.
Yeah.
I assumed that's what you put in there. But
no, because I thought about it, but then it did this. Remember when we had someone brought in on trade a Fender DeVille, that's 410s, and it had all but one speaker was blown.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, okay, we'll take it in trade, but, you need 4 new speakers. And the one that isn't blown is probably hurting too. So we're going to put 4 new speakers.
Made a new speaker board.
So I made a new speaker board and put a 15 in. The only 15 I had around was a kind of modern full range speaker. So it's like, I'll try it out. It's here, I'm trying to make a buck someday. So I put that in there. It sounded great.
Yeah.
And so I thought, for guitar, if you want the 15 for guitar, why not something with a flat, something without the mid-range hump? And so that's what this has, a modern. It's not like super heavy like that. That other one was like a PA kind of speaker. This is a guitar, or it's an instrument speaker with a moderate magnet, but a real magnet. It's not, but it didn't use the old Jensen. No, it's just kind of because of economy, but also because I think that you just get that really flat response. It's a pretty cool thing, and so we have it here in the store, sitting right next to a Blues Junior. Come and try it out because it sounds better. It was my postulate that it would sound better, and now we know. A wood cab is better than a particle board cab, and a 15 is a good thing for a guitar.
Yeah. What was it the Vibro Verb? It's an old Fender.
Single 15, yeah.
Single 15, like a Super with a 15. Lex had one.
Yeah.
I remember people loved that amp, and he got a great sound out of it.
Yeah. We should see what Lex is playing now. He's probably downsized. He went to the Quilter, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say he's probably gone lightweight with the rest of us old guys.
Okay, so William talked about Lewis said the 100 watts of a tube can go down to 20 watts. That can go down to 20 watts is a killer head. Is the Mesa Boogie will melt your face. A tube can go down to 20. Oh, so it probably has an output attenuator.
Right.
That's what he's probably talking. Which a lot of people are doing now. Even that, remember that Marshall Studio MK2 we had
Oh, the
in
little
here?
guy?
The little Marshall
Yeah,
that sounded
that had
exactly
anything.
like a Plexi. And it was 20 watts, but it had
Down to 5 or something.
yeah, or just a half wattage setting.
Yeah.
And it was still loud. So you put on
Okay.
half wattage and turned it all the way up, and it sounded like Jimmy.
Right.
So, but some people talk about using output attenuators on those now, on 15 watt amps. Definitely. But you know what wasn't quiet is Robert Cray's guitar last night, screaming. If you're going to be at a show and something's going to be 20% loud at a Robert Cray show, it might as well be his guitar.
And it was okay in the music hall? Because that's a room you do not want to be loud in.
Yeah. No, it passed the. If I was mixing, I'm a backseat mixer. I never bother the engineers because I do mixing too. But I sit it down on a show and I know what it's just supposed to sound like, and I've been doing this for 30 years, and so it just needed a little more snare drum, a little less guitar during the rhythm guitar parts. The solos were in the right spot, and then and the Hammond should have been brought in a little better, but just little tweaks would have made it great. But his guitar was too loud, but it's Robert Cray. And it was great. And it gave me insight into his technique, too, because you could hear all those little, because he loves to, like, do those things where he, like, goes down to that low F and just bends the heck out of it in a weird way. And, making,
what's he
like,
playing?
Strats all night.
Strat.
One telly. He had a guitar every other song. He probably had about 6 or 8 guitars that would be constantly tuned and by Rody. Yeah. And it was 85% Strat.
Right.
But definitely, if you get a chance to see him do it, it was great. Brendan Butler says hello from Utah.
Brandon?
Lewis, question: can you recommend a good tube amp combo that is creamy, clear, and clean tone? Creamy, clean tone. That's a tube amp.
That's like 3 divergent things.
Yeah,
I want it to be creamy, clean.
Yeah.
I don't know if those 3 things ever go together.
Really exist, yeah.
The cleanest amps are solid state amps usually. The Roland Jazz Chorus, famously, cleanest amp ever. Creamy to me is a sort of a distortion, which comes predominantly from tubes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can get all.
So maybe a tube amp that doesn't like really distort. It just gets, but it has to be a combo. So it's the Fender Twin.
Yeah, that's
Fender Twin is good at a clean volume low, but of course it's huge and heavy.
Well, there were some old Gibson amps that were hard to get a breakup out of.
Yeah.
They weren't real powerful. They were, 15, 20 watts.
Yeah.
The jazz guys liked them.
Yeah.
Because of that. But
some of these boutique amps, we have this valve train here. You check them out. That's a used valve train we have. It's based on a basement circuit. That's going to give you a nice clean headroom. Robert Cray was using matchless. He had no distortion pedal or anything. He just used his volume control and his tone controls. And his finger, it's a style to turn up and down. And so, but he had 2 matchless amps and a small Fender combo.
Oh, so he's switching amps?
Nope, 3 amps are on the whole time.
Okay.
And then I think he might have had either a guitar Leslie stashed away or a really good vibrato, Leslie pedal somewhere that we couldn't see it because he did a Leslie sound on something. All right, so let's just do the check back in with folks. If you're just joining us, it's Guitar Talk from Gary's Guitars. We just sit here talking about guitars. Ask us any questions you'd like. What else would I say? We got to reframe ourselves.
Don't forget to ring the bell and do the sign up.
Or something. All that kind of thing. And notifications and stuff. So if you get the notifications, you get a little reminder. Subscriptions. If you're doing it while you're watching the show live, it helps. The YouTube thing thinks we're really cool. So
the algorithms.
The algorithms. Evans amps from South Carolina, made by Scott Bufferton. Cleanest ever.
When they were tubes?
Yeah, no, I think this is like a newer boutique kind of thing too. Yeah, I think I remember hearing about those. Yeah, there's some of these newer boutique, like 20 watt-ish amps that they just really get them clean. I think it's a thing out there now. But they're usually in the
push your power tubes too much. They're not going to break up.
Did a gig with my friend Seth, who sometimes watches this, so maybe he'll see this. But and this I'm going to say is a compliment. He had this boutique amp that was really clean and pure. It was like a copy of the 6F3, circuit, but with upgraded everything's It was tweed with the top controls, and he had a handmade Gibson Les Paul by a maker in Maine that was absolutely beautiful. We did this gig. I had my 14-pound Les Paul and my Citation by Excelsior Sano amp by my side, and his amp sounded too good. His guitar, and he might be selling the guitar. I think he sold the amp. And it was just too good, too clean, too full range. And I was like, almost like, that's too much good stuff. You got to crap up your sound a little just to get, a little bit of something going,
To paraphrase Keith Richards, electric guitar should not sound perfect, and that's what we love about it.
Yeah. So Mike says, creamy, deluxe reverb on 7, bass on 4, treble on 6, bright switch off.
But is it clean?
Well, it doesn't. It's not going to be that clean, but it's going to be.
Volume on what?
But bright switch off, volume on 7.
7, yeah, it's going to break up a little.
But the treble's on 4.
Yeah.
Oh no, bass on 4, treble on 6. So the bass of the treble's up a little. Yeah. Try it out. That's the recipe. That's Mike's secret recipe, and he'll give us his Hungarian Goulash recipe as well at some point here if we're nice. Solid state, yeah, there's some great solid state amps there. That damn Champion 40.
Yeah.
If someone came in looking for a Polytone, I'd be like, trust me, don't bother with it. Polytones are nothing but trouble. Just try out this Champion 40. It's just good on, clean. I mentioned it before, I think, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but you got to give credit where credit's due. It's a good little amp. It has some digital stuff too, if you want effects and distortion and modeling. But if you just volume on, plug it in.
Well, it's the 12-inch speaker makes all
12-inch speaker makes a big difference too. The size of the cabinet makes a little difference.
To make the same amp with less power, but a smaller speaker sounds half as good, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. So. The Champion 20 is not as good.
Yeah.
It's smaller. I would say, and then we did a Polytone repair recently for a guy playing bass through it, which is what you should not be doing. But those things are all hurting. If you're thinking of Polytone, think again, because everyone that comes in and Paul like, oh man, he's just head and hands with one of these because they're built like a little homemade bomb inside. It's like leads dangling around and stuff.
In their favor, I'll be the
okay. You'll be the
coin. I think they suffer from the same thing that the Fiat I bought once suffered from. Nobody knew how to fix the thing.
Yeah.
It was like the second year they imported them. Great little car until something went wrong and you went to the Fiat garage and it came back and it was worse.
Backwards, yeah.
It went back and it came back and it was worse still.
Because the guys working on the cars are Chevy guys.
Right.
I didn't know.
Fiat, what's that?
Lawnmower?
Polytones, my experience with them in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were great. Built like tanks. But now 40 years later, people are still playing those amps that are 40, 50, 60 years old, and they're weird. You show it to a tech like Paul, they go, what? What the hell is that? That's supposed to be over there, and that can't be there. And
so did I tell you about my theory on the Polytone? My theory is there was a professor, an esteemed professor, probably Berkeley, maybe like one or New York School, Juilliard, some big city school that who played jazz, bought this amp so they could ride the subway to work.
Yeah, the Mini Brute.
Pretended like they liked it, just because they didn't want to carry out of laziness of carrying a Roland or something. Yeah. And just convinced everyone it was great because they were a great player. Everyone was convinced that I got to get this amp that my professor had. These people grew up, had students. They need, it's just a rumor that this amp is good.
Well, you're showing your age.
Yeah, and it has a distortion. You ever turn the distortion on?
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Never
don't turn the red button. No. It's like a jazz chorus.
Yeah,
don't
never turn the distortion on.
It is bad.
Okay, so Mike says, took me 20 years to discover that all Fender amps are all about the bass knob. Turn it down. I can believe that. Bass gets in the way of developing that clear sound. I'm usually bright switch on, but on my Pro Reverb, bright switch off because it's a bright amp.
Yeah.
But I'm usually a bright switch on kind of guy.
No,
If you're going to play a Fender, you might
I
as well.
disconnect mine.
Right.
Get out of there.
Yeah. Also, I've been a couple of Ampegs. One's a Gemini, and also on the reverb. I own the Reverb Rocket for maybe 5. No, off and on. I owned a Reverb Rocket for years.
Yeah.
Right. I've owned. I used to own 2 at the same time. I played them both on stage. It was glorious. But the tone knob, you turn it all the way up, and then you go click. There's a click at the top, little asterisk on it, and that's like super tone.
Yeah, that's like
super high end.
Supercharger kick in, yeah.
And that's if you want the Beatle sound or something, Nowhere Man or something. But that's a cool sound. So if you have an old Ampeg amp, and you just see if you get a click at the top of it. It was
piercing, I remember that.
Yeah.
Whoa. Or as Jim would say, it's a heap of trouble.
Yeah, heap of trouble. All right. Let's see here. Checking back in. No, we're up to date. So if you have any amp comments, questions, guitar questions, comments, we can yap about some more stuff we come across today too. But we're here for you. We're here to have a discussion. So
I thought it might be worth discussing briefly. We talked about it a little bit the other day. The YouTube site for all. I know we're all YouTubers, and used to be called Professional Musicians React. Now it's called Dead Wax.
Yeah,
same 2 guys. Pretty. At least half of them are really good.
Yeah. You just look at their list and pick the good ones. Well done, Jack Shea. Is that his name?
Yeah, I forget their names.
Jack. Anyways, it's the dude who invented Patreon.
Right.
So now he has $1 billion in the bank, and he's just stayed. But he made his thing on YouTube with his band doing YouTube videos. Yeah. So he's dedicated to the YouTube world.
We get really interesting guys on, some somewhat famous. But they did this thing about guitar tone is the one that sort of struck me. There were the 2 of them and 2 other people, and sort of ranging from 25 to 60-year-old guitar players. So they covered. At one point, they said, "We're talking about basically the history of electric guitar because you were there for 1950, and we're here for 1918 or 2018." But what was striking to me was the younger guys. Almost everybody they picked was what I would call affected tone. And the older guy was picking pretty much guys playing with no effects.
No effects. Pretty clean.
When I think the words guitar tone, the tone of the guitar, not the 12 pedals.
But I tell you, in defense of pedals, reverb pedals, digital reverb pedals have gotten so good now. I actually use one now too.
Oh,
I never for years.
I'm not saying I didn't like it.
But they add dimension to your tone for sure.
It was just kind of striking to me.
It's a good big difference there.
This guy is talking about this kind of tone, and these guys are talking about tone, but it's a totally different thing. And it's all good. But in my head, I have to keep it as 2 separate things. Because when somebody says, "How's that guitar sound?" they don't mean plugged into 4 pedals.
They just mean
they want to know how that guitar sounds.
So Henry says, I had a Fender Vibro Champ. I have a Vibro Champ Reverb. So that must be one of the new ones. Because it's a Vibro Champ, but it has reverb.
They don't have reverb.
Not back then, but now they do.
Okay.
They actually use digital reverb
because you can't fit and reverb.
Yeah.
So it's a little mini deluxe.
Yeah, I guess so. That's why it costs $800. Anyways, you put a Weber 110F 150, beautiful clean zone. Yeah, I upgrade. So the speaker that is in the Vibro, in the Champ, and the Vibro. Oh no, that's a Vibro Verb. Did you say Vibro Verb or Champ?
I thought you said Champ.
Yeah, no, Fender Vibro Champ.
Yeah,
so it's
that's what you got.
Yep, I got 2 of them.
Right, but no reverb.
No reverb because of the old ones. I swapped the speakers out. Glad I did it. The original speakers are no good for anything other than if you want a crappy sound. They're not. But if you upgrade the speakers, and that's another thing of talking about clean tones. There's I always and there's another video where I give the speech. There's 4 places you can get distortion. You can get it in the preamp section. You can get it from the power tubes, right?
Yep.
You can get it on your transformer. When you overwhelm your output transformer, you get that square wave distortion.
Oh, do you?
The transformer goes, you get that really, and so that's the sound of a really good, like like a Sano turned all the way up because they're tiny transformers on
Right.
output,
Huh.
and they go nuts in a very good way. Or the early deluxes before Leo beefed them up. And then the fourth spot is your speaker. Speaker distorts. You get a speaker that doesn't distort, you eliminate a bunch of distortion.
See, I do it in reverse order. First is the speaker.
That's
where
the
your
thing.
key distortion
Yeah.
comes from. But I didn't know about that. I didn't know
Transformers can really, because the transformer. First of all, the transformer is also an equalizer, because transformers don't pass the entire spectrum flat. They will give you a high pass, and so they'll take out some low. They'll start to dive off at the end, and so that's a transformer coupled. Because now, so here's the thing: I was at that back to the Robert Gray show last night, but I find this at a lot of modern shows where they're using Midas digital mixers. I was talking about that guitar that was like, oh man, that hurts. Because on a regular mixing console, you have transformers and you have all sorts of resistors and coupling capacitors, and things get knocked down. Even if you're not using a compressor, you don't have just infinite ouch factor. Things start to compress at some point on a mixer, like a real mixer. But digital mixers, there's a logarithm that kind of simulates that a bit, but really it just gets louder. It doesn't get thicker. It doesn't get creamier, as they would say. It just gets painful. And I guess compression and creamy might be the same. Creamy might be the word for the sound of compression. Because you can also get compression from 4 places in your guitar amp, from your preamp speakers, from your power amp, from your transformer, and from your speakers.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to get many positive words about digital sound out of me. So
yeah, right.
Any bad thing you say about it, I agree with.
Yeah. No, it's a shame because other things are like crystal clear and it makes mixing easier. I have a digital board. I use a hybrid board. I use sometimes. And I like the modern sound for live sound, but you gotta know that you don't have that transformer at the end of the circuit to lean against. Like things can get ouchy real quick, and lots of headroom in these, and lots of hiss. We've got in the theater, and I'm like, it just sounds like there's a white noise generator on. Yeah,
but you think digital is
And
super
once
quiet?
Yeah, but I think it's because they're using powered speakers and stuff like that. They get a little cranked. So Marshall, Ohio, who's been here, well, actually, he makes comments about amps, and he just message retracted, so he might be editing himself. So he's our guy up in Maine who, one time he was like, Blues Jinger sucks, and then he's like, oh wow, I feel bad. And later it's like, I know you guys sell Blues Jingers. I didn't want to let you know. I remember that guy, but he was real nice about it. Guitar tone, Leslie West on Mississippi Queen. Les Paul Jr. through a Marshall. Prove me wrong.
So it's right up there with top 5.
Joe Walsh, Funk 49. Is that the name of the song? Or 47?
James Gang?
James Gang, yeah. Joe Walsh playing through a Marshall stack and a Leslie 122 at the same time. Touche. Mike, go do A-B that. That guitar sound, that thing is luscious. And for a bonus round, go watch him on that German TV show where you see a lot of rock, rock.
Oh yes,
whatever,
right.
Yeah.
Rock blast.
And it's the James Gang doing that, and he's got a Marshall and a Leslie, and they're both spinning. I mean, Leslie's on high, and the Marshall's spitting fire. That's tone, I'll tell you. The guy, I think Joe Walsh is responsible for bringing back the Les Paul. He's the one who sold or gave one to Jimmy Page. And Jimmy Page told Eric Clapton, in that mid 60s when Gibson kind of abandoned the Les Paul.
Right.
He had a hand in making people want one again. And then Gibson by 69 or 70 they started making
sometimes because
Bloomfield, yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing.
His height of popularity was there was no Les Paul being made, and he was playing Les Paul for the most part.
You did a review of one, which is what's this? 5-watt reissue. Oh yeah. So the I just did a thing on YouTube about the Vibro Champ. I'm starting a new series of small amp videos, and that was one of them. I misspoke and said 6L6 instead of 6V6, and some people were kind of blown up but that gets your comments up. So that's every once in a while if you leave a mistake in,
Yeah.
someone's like, "You're crazy," but that was But yeah, 6 watts at 2.3 ohms or something with some weird ohm rating on the speaker. And then we have John Cruz says hello from Kansas. I drove through Kansas recently.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
We can talk about Kansas.
Oh, we can. Okay.
Yeah.
We just can't say what you're doing there, right?
No, I was in another Midwestern state.
Oh, that was a different thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That wasn't Kansas, right?
Kansas, also interesting place. Kind of beautiful. Let's see. Catch up on the other comments here. Tuning in late. Margaret just got here tuning in late. Margaret's a regular too, and we just talked again about the Champion 40. And if you didn't check it out last time, I found out about the 50 XL. It's nothing that you need. The 40 is everything you need if you want clean tone. The XL version of that, there's a slightly bigger Champion that does a lot more of the metal and pushy
so
more stuff. But yeah,
modeling sets. And
more modeling, more
stuff.
oomph, more wattage, of course. But still, that's the surprise amp of the year. That one there, that really took me by surprise. John Sebastian played a 59 Les Paul Flame Top. Yeah, okay. Seen him playing a few guitars, but he probably kept his
11 spoonful.
Yeah,
I mean, I usually think of him with an acoustic, of course.
an acoustic or like I've seen him play a semi-hollow.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy played a lot, and really, you know what? I listened to this. Okay, and if you haven't, speaking of podcasts, History of Rock and Roll in 500 songs. Look it up in the podcast world. It's the deepest of deep dives into all these.
That's a lot of songs to talk about.
Yeah, he's on he's gotten up to 200, I think.
Oh, he does one song
an episode.
Oh, so this is going to go on.
No, he's got 150. Years. Yeah, he's probably going to be 8 years. He's done like 3 or 4 years already or something. Yeah, and but one of them was 11 Spoonful.
Which tune?
I think which one did they choose, Phil? Because they choose the song and then they tell. It could have been Daydream or the one with a harmonica in it too. Because
what a day for a daydream.
Because his dad was a famous harmonica player. That's part of this. But anyways, they get a bad rep in the scene because they narked on somebody to stay out of jail themselves or something. So they kind of got cast. It's an interesting story, and that's kind of how he was on probation in the San Francisco scene for sure because they got him.
That one.
Yeah. So the 11 Spoonful was not invited to the parties after that.
They had one of the most eccentric guitar players of all time, Zal Janowski.
Yeah.
He was well known for his pranks and his moodiness and probably bipolar or something.
Yeah. And then Marshall Howe, what material does Garrett's guitars use for shimming Strat style necks? We can use a variety of materials.
Business
from
cards, usually.
Business card, if it just needs a little bit.
Whatever's the right thickness. Sometimes we have pieces of ivory.
Veneer.
Wooden veneer.
Wood veneer. Yeah.
I go with, what Fender did in the 50s.
Yeah.
Piece cardboard. It's easy. It's cheap. You cut it out. Make it fit right.
The size. Yeah.
If you need 2 layers, cut out another piece.
Yeah. Fender actually, for shims, I've seen on really old Fenders, little pieces of sheet metal for shims.
Really? I never saw metal in old.
And the one that that Strat we sold for Doug, that had a metal shim in it.
Well, he might have put that in. He hid that thing apart 100 times.
Maybe, but it kind of looked original.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
But yeah,
metal shield under the pick guard, so it snipped off.
Yeah, you snip off some of that.
Right.
Metal shield under the pick guard. That's
whatever's the right thickness.
Zal ratted out his dealer. There we go. Mike says straight on that. So they had to. They did it. He did it to stay out of jail or something. So he had to turn someone in, and then that really changed their position in the scene. And then they did that soundtrack that was quite popular, but. That's had their Darling Be Home Soon was on that. Remember?
You mean the Woody Allen soundtrack?
Yeah, right.
What's Up, Tiger?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And they're performing the band in the movie. I remember
that. But Darling Be Home Soon is probably his greatest song.
They're in the handful of '60s groups when you get their greatest hits record. it's really good.
Yeah, you're like, wow,
have
I know
like
all these songs.
10
Yeah, right.
great songs
Yeah.
and 3 or 4 are just fine.
And they probably were together for 3 or 4 years. Creedence Clearwater Revival was together for like 2.5
yeah,
years. Or
they're
something, yeah.
probably the best. I mean,
They had like the 2 volume
30
greatest
great
hits.
songs.
Yeah, 30 songs on the greatest hits records.
Right,
And
Lovin' Spoonful, The Animals
Yeah.
is a good one.
yeah, the Animals had such a
Creedence.
window, and then they really sucked after that. Eric Burton started the New Animals. They kind of sucked.
When Alan Price left.
Yep. And then they had a reunion in the 80s, which is comical.
Yeah.
Just look up it's called Animal was the name of the record, I think, or something like that, or because it had like some kind of 80s looking cartoon cover.
Right.
Just really terrible, amazingly bad record.
Well, Eric Burton did have a nice spark there with War.
Yeah,
for a
War.
while.
That was good thinking. He met
Yeah.
War. He knew they were good. He'd be like, I got a name.
Right.
I'll take you guys on a ride. They joined him for a while. They continued on without him too.
Right.
It was pretty cordial. He seems to be an all right guy. What do you guys think about Larrivee acoustic guitars? I played one on a shop and really liked it. We were talking about that recently.
Around here, the serious players that I know, which I'm not one, figure style mostly, but blues and folkies. Once Larrivee moved to
California,
the United States, Northern California,
changed.
so the Canadian one's great.
Yeah,
as good as anything. The American ones, they're
great.
good,
Yeah, no, I mean they are kind of great. So yeah,
not consistently great.
not the same kind of great. They're just a different. They're kind of like a really nice seagull.
And it makes sense.
I think compared to like Godin, if I had a Larrivee and that Godin sitting next to each other, we got a Godin Fremont, one of their basic Godins. I'd pick the Godin probably.
Yeah. To me, it's just like Taylor is just like you play a Taylor from 1982. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, because Bob Taylor made it.
Right. And it's
Jean Larrivee made this one in 1989 or whenever it was. But once they got to America, it was because they couldn't keep up and they needed a plant and they started mass production with the same ideas and same woods, but not the detail.
And Jean Larrivee, he also did, he still says he selects all the tops himself, which is good. That's his job at the factory. But also, I heard of this either rumor or something that was retold to me, so I don't know if it's true. But Guitar Center is famous for beating down their suppliers and getting their prices low and
not paying them.
And not paying them. And so Larrivee decided, okay, if you want cheaper guitars, we'll sell cheaper guitars, but we're giving you the B stock.
Right.
So everything that wasn't a great guitar got sold at Guitar Center. So if you're in Guitar Center looking at Larrivees, they might be B stock stuff. He's like, we send the junk to.
That's an old daddy's trick.
Center,
For years, they just got B stock from everybody.
Yeah.
So they could beat everybody's price.
Yeah. Because sometimes people just don't know.
Or they don't care, and sometimes it didn't matter, but sometimes it did.
Well, it's 7:02 already. Paul says time flies. Good night. Yeah, we did start 4 minutes late, so we can wrap it up now. But so that's but there's nothing wrong with any Larrivees. I owned a Larrivee for years. I liked it. Nothing wrong with them. But if you're looking for, if you like it,
you want a really good Larrivee, get a Canadian.
Get a used Canadian-made one. They're just fine. Like I said, they're like a Godin, premium Seagull kind of thing.
They went from top 4 or 5 makers to top 30.
And Google this. There's some kind of, and I got to read it again so I can retell it better. But I guess Jean Larrivee, maybe Robert Taylor, all of today's top guitar manufacturers at one time worked for Robert Gurian. Or what's his name? Gurian. Not Robert Gurian. No.
Mike? No.
Michael Gurian? Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah, local guy.
Yeah, New Hampshire guy. Yeah. There's something to us. There's some story like that. Like if Gurian is of all these kind of revisions of Martin guitars that are out there, the Taylors, which a customer of ours has an early Taylor that Bob Taylor made, and it's a Martin copy, and it's tremendous.
Well, there's this New England thing with Gurian, Charles Fox, who was another famous maker, and it seemed like all those guys that are still alive doing it went through those two guys somewhere in New England. Fox was up
for a year or two or something. Yeah, he was in Vermont, and Gurian was in New Hampshire, and then later upstate New York or something.
So yeah, they spread the knowledge way back in the 60s.
Well, that was the epicenter of the redesigned guitar. Was that? Right. So, anyways, Google that. It's good. It's fun to read about.
Michael Gurian. Yeah,
Michael Gurian. That's all right. All right, so now we've come to the end of another. You've done it again. You wasted another perfectly good hour listening to Guitar Talk. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll be back next week.
Not
and,
me.
Garrett's taking a week off.
Next week is every other week.
Yeah. And then also check out the other videos. We got Small Amps volume 2 is up in our videos. And so spread the word on that. And Instagram, Facebook, all that. Stay in touch. Have a good night. And we'll see you soon. Stand by for the end.
Juice.